When hope is gone, undo this lock and send me forth on a moonlit walk. Release restraint level 0. Hey kids, wanna see a dead body?
Hi guys, this is the Void of the Ravenclaw. Welcome back to another fanfiction story. If you like this type of content, smash the like button and subscribe for future updates that I do post on my community tab frequently. We're going to continue where we last left off in our story. 24 hours after the events of the USJ, Principal Nezu had to hold a press conference because of the villain attack and the involvement of Deku, the villain killer. UA as a whole is getting flagged on both accounts. Deku watched the whole broadcast on his computer at his hideout outside the city limits in the League of Villains' old laboratory that he made his own. Deku watched the broadcast, declared that they will stop the League of Villains. But the strange-looking mammal said something that quite surprised Deku. They announced that the villain killer Deku is going to be their main priority for capture. Deku shot off the broadcast, so the heroes are finally taking action. Things are going to get a tad bit more difficult operating in the city. Perfect. Things were getting kind of boring. I think that little performance at the USJ made me mainstream. I have no intention of stopping killing villains. I'm just going to have to be cautious and careful moving forward. One of Deku's monitors starts to light up as an image of the city comes onto the monitor, with several red dots scattered all across the city. The red dots signify altercations with villains, with the authorities. Deku is directly connected with the police system. There's no way it can be traced back to him after he hacked into their system and made a backdoor for himself. So whatever intel the police have, he will have access to. Deku got up from his chair that's in front of the big computer that's in the lab as he made his way over to the living area that's in the laboratory and start to get a clean pair of clothes. Once he was all dressed, Deku turned himself into pure data and traveled through the monitor as he reappeared somewhere in the city. Once Deku materialized, he immediately went to the rooftops. It's still during the day, so the cops' presence in the city is far more. Because of the increase police presence in the city, traveling by street would be unwise. So that's why he took the rooftops. Once Deku got to the roof, he pulled out a face guard out of his suit and placed it on the bottom part of his face. he placed the face guard over his face, there was a slight increase in pressure around the mask. That's on the bottom of his face, keeping the guard in place. It's a small mechanism. Once placed over your face, activates. That will keep the face guard onto your face without needing any other enhancements to the mask to stay on someone's face. It's basically sealed pressure. Once the mechanism is activated, it will keep the face guard on his face. The likelihood of his face guard falling off is very unlikely. It's a black face guard that covers the bottom, covers his mouth, covering his entire bottom of his face, including his nose. Deku halted his movement, seeing a bunch of villains in the process of robbing a bank. They haven't actually robbed the bank yet, but they're in process of getting out of their vehicles to head into the bank to rob the place. Deku decided these villains will be the first ones to die today. He doesn't really care if they rob the bank or not. He's not some sort of hero. He's only here to kill villains. And by happenstance, if he saves people's lives in the process, that's not really his concern. There's only one person he needs to look after, and that is himself. He doesn't really care. Oh, sorry, I was about to read that again. Alright, let's continue with our story. Deku's first target notices a straggler out of the van holding some sort of metal device. It's not too big, but it's not too small. The device he's carrying to the alleyway is a jammer, so the silent alarm won't be broadcast. That's when Deku struck by sneaking behind the man. After he set the device and activated it, Deku snapped the man's neck and took the bank robber's gear, what he was wearing, and put it on and tossed the corpse in the nearby dumpster as he put the robber's clothes on and put the mask back off his metal face guard and put it away as he put the robber's mask on as he walked out of the alleyway. Is it done, Rain? That's who I killed. Deku nod at the man. You're awfully quiet today, no matter. Here, catch, as he tossed over a rifle to Deku, who's disguised as this Rain fellow that he just killed. We just need you to make sure that the people inside don't cause too much trouble while we go and get the money. Let's get this show on the road. The boss is not a patient man. Sir, everything's ready. Deku turned around to see the so-called leader of this little villain group as a huge man wearing some sort of red armor with a huge helmet as Juggernaut came out of the back of the van. Good work, boys. If everything goes well, you're going to get a nice bonus. Let's get this show in the road. Let's get this show on the road. As he slammed his fist into his hand, basically a palm of his hand. Juggernaut got tired of the X-Men always interfering in his plans, especially his brother Charles. So he decided to do his crimes in another country. Deku sees the huge, bulky man. He couldn't help but smirk behind the robber's mask. He knows exactly who this is. He died before he was born, but he was quite infamous for his battle prowess, and willingly to protect a group of young mutants. He highly doubt this Juggernaut is so noble, considering he's robbing a bank, but either way, if he managed to kill Juggernaut, he has no doubt he'll gain reputation. Most people might not know who this is in Japan. But in America, that's a different story entirely. Deku decided to play along. For now, once he finds an opening, then he'll strike. And he has no doubt the battle between himself and Juggernaut will get the attention of the heroes. Who better witness Juggernaut's death than a bunch of heroes? He couldn't ask for better audience. He never thought he would catch a big fish. He's no Magneto, but Juggernaut is still well known. His death will spread like locusts. He might still have a current objection or mission in Japan, but that doesn't mean he wants to stay here his entire life. He wants to explore the world, but first, he needs to handle some in-house business until he can leave. There's a lot of loose ends that needs to be cut, and people need to die. He could see a battle coming between the League of Villains and his counterpart in this timeline, after all. In this timeline, after all, he is the holder of One for All. The peaceful life in Japan will change eventually into all-out war. He knows how One for All is. He has no doubt this All for One is just as crazy and depraved as the All for One in his timeline. Once Juggernaut entered the bank. This is a robbery. I do apologize for the inconvenience, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm going to have to ask you to lay on the ground with your hands behind your back, unless you want to get shot. The boys, cover all the exits. Kill anyone that shows any slightest resistance. I would advise you to open the vault clerk. Not even that little safety cage you're in will stop me from killing you from that very spot. So don't do anything cute. When Juggernaut took a few of the robbers to the vault, once they left the lobby, Deku made his move, only seeing 3 villains to deal with. Deku walked towards one of the bank robbers that has his back turned from Deku and slammed the rifle in the back of his head. Deku immediately opened fire at the collapsing man on the ground as he drops the rifle, as the remaining bank robbers turn to his direction. Seeing Deku with his finger extended towards one of the bank robbers in a gun gesture with his finger, bang. Out of his fingertip, a beam of energy shot out from the tip of his finger, fly right through one of the bank robber's head, as Deku began shooting beams of energy out of his fingertips once again, like a gun, at the remaining bank robber that's in the lobby. As all the civilians in the lobby gasped, seeing someone being murdered right in front of them. Deku, sensing danger, jumped to the side to escape a gunshot flying towards him. Deku had to create a digital wall in front of him to block the remaining bullets from the rifles, from several of the rifles that the bank robbers been carrying. As all the other bank robbers went to check up the noise was, as Juggernaut can see his men on the ground dead. Who are you? You're not one of my boys. None of my men have green eyes like yours. I would have noticed. So you figured it out, have you? Your suspicions are quite correct. I'm not one of your boys. As he used finger quotations. After all, I killed this fella. As he pulled off his mask. I believe you called him Rain or something like that. He was a nobody, really. Just a low-tier villain. I did the world a favor. Deku pulled the face guard out of his suit and placed it over his face. As you could hear the sealing mechanism activating. As steam can be seen coming out of the mask. Sure, that's the villain killer Deku. You are the famous and infamous villain killer Deku, I presume? At your service, as he gave Juggernaut a mocking bow. As several more shots of data beams shot out of his palm of his hand when he spread his arms apart, killing the rest of the villains, attempting to rob the bank, leaving Juggernaut all by himself. Sorry to interrupt your little scheme of robbing the bank. I can't allow someone of your reputation to leave. You're going to be my biggest mark to date. So that's why you're doing this. You're here to kill me. Is that it? Not originally, but when I saw this little villain group attempt to rob a bank, I just stumbled upon you, really. I had no idea you were even in the country. I can't have someone like you, with your reputation, to slip through my fingers. It's not every day I get a chance to fight against the Juggernaut himself. Deku was done talking. He immediately stepped right in front of Juggernaut and landed a powerful blow into his gut as Juggernaut was sent flying out of the bank through one of the solid walls of the bank. Now there's a hole in the wall, but nevertheless, Juggernaut went through it as he went skidding across the street, finally stopping into a nearby truck. That truck suddenly was fired upon as a huge beam of data beam, into the truck, making the vehicle explode as the flames engulf Juggernaut. Deku You stayed a good distance between himself and Juggernaut and wait and watch for the smoke to clear. He knows something like that won't be able to stop Juggernaut. While he's wearing his suit, he's pretty much unstoppable, and the helmet prevents anyone from attempting to invade his mind. But Deku has no such ability to do so, so he's gonna be forced to outright kill him the old-fashioned way, by brute force. He could easily activate Overlord and accomplish that, but that would not be entertaining enough for him. This would be a better chance to test his capabilities with his physical strength. He couldn't test out his physical strength fully when he was fighting against his doppelganger and his sister. But with Juggernaut, that won't be an issue. This would be a very enlightening experience for the villain killer. Fighting someone at his caliber. All honesty, he doesn't know if All Might could even take out Juggernaut. Not with his current conditions, only able to fight for a certain amount of time. The smoke didn't even clear yet, but Juggernaut walked out of the flames and smoke as he walked past, or basically through, fire. As he started to pat the small fire that's on his suit with the palm of his hand. That stung. You're dead. As Juggernaut charged at Deku. Deku wasn't expecting Juggernaut to move so fast as Juggernaut shoulder tackled Deku. Deku managed to correct himself in mid-flight and skid across the street. Juggernaut's speed was surprising and impressive, but Deku was mostly unharmed. His shirt took more, his clothes took more damage than himself. Deku did not have a snarky remark. He just simply extended both of his hands towards Juggernaut as a huge wave of data beam shot out of the palm of his hands, flying towards Juggernaut. As the street can be seen crumbling and cracking, while the beams of energy flew above the street. With the pure magnitude of power that he just unleashed. Juggernaut seeing the beams of unknown energy fast approaching, he had no choice but to cross his arms in attempts to protect himself. Deku watches his current attack hit his mark. The force of the energy beam forced Juggernaut to skid backwards. Deku could see the steam from his attack hitting from Juggernaut's arms. Is that all you got, villain killer? I'll admit your energy blasts are impressive, and the simple fact that every other energy blast that I've been fought against has either got reflected off of my suit, but yours seem to be a tad bit different compared to the others. But that won't be enough, boy. You're going to need a lot more than your little fancy energy beams, boy. You honestly think weak attacks like that could take me out? Welcome to the big leagues. Juggernaut rushed forward, began to charge Deku once again. Deku got into a more of a fighting stance and wait for the perfect time to strike. The moment Juggernaut stopped charging, he struck. He just had to dodge his Juggernaut's initial attack, then counterattack. And when Juggernaut tried to run down Deku, Deku jumped over Juggernaut, over his head, and slammed his foot into his spine in a spin kick in the middle of his back, forcing Juggernaut to take several steps forward. When Juggernaut spun around to throw a fist at Deku, Deku ducked under his fist and threw out a powerful but fast strike into Juggernaut's body, as you could see his fist imprints on Juggernaut's stomach, then on his chest. As he was sent flying backwards, Deku vanished and appeared right behind Juggernaut as he kicked Juggernaut in the back once again. Juggernaut could feel how powerful the strikes are getting, as he could see cracks. Pieces of his armor begin to crack. Each attack is getting stronger and stronger. Juggernaut is not stupid. He could clearly tell and feel his attacks are getting a lot more powerful as the battle progresses. Like the bastard's only testing his abilities against him. That's what irritated him more. Not the fact that he's trying to kill him. A lot of people have tried to kill him in the past. But the fact that he's trying to kill him and using him as a test dummy just got on his nerves. So Juggernaut pushed past the pain and finally landed a solid hit across the villain killer's face. When Deku was struck across the right side of his face from the mean right hook from Juggernaut, he was shot into several nearby buildings. Deku maneuvered his body before he could hit the next wall. When the wall approached, he landed both his feet on the wall and springboard off the wall. And once he got close enough, he went into a slide, stopping himself from tackling Juggernaut. From the momentum he was going, Deku dusts off the rubble that was on his shoulder. You're a lot more durable than I gave you credit, kid. A full power punch like that should have done some sort of damage to you. But you seem to be unscratched. What exactly are you, kid? Instead of replying, Deku charged forward and threw out a punch. Juggernaut saw it coming and threw out his own, as there is a devastating shock wave destroying all the nearby windows nearby. Deku smirked as his strikes got 10 times more faster. Juggernaut was forced to cross his arms in front of himself. Seeing the speed of each strike was getting too much for Juggernaut to keep track of. Juggernaut noticed he was moving fast enough to make after images of himself. It's like fighting a more stronger version of Quicksilver. If Quicksilver had super strength alongside with his speed. In the midst of his attack, Deku had made a virtual gauntlet over his fist. In the midst of his attack, as he began landing, more stronger attacks onto Juggernaut, making his punches far more devastating. Once the gauntlets made contact with skin, a burst of data energy was shot out, giving Deku a more devastating after effect once he get hit by one of his gauntlet fists. You could clearly see the digital circuits all around Deku's face, arms, and body, as his body mostly, you would see glowing green and red digital circuits. When the digital circuits started to show up on his skin, Deku immediately started to target the helmet of Juggernaut. But the helmet just seemed to absorb the physical punishment that Deku's throwing. He's not even making a dent. It's not made of average metal, or he would have already punched right through it. But that did not deter him. He simply put on the pressure by increasing his attacks on the helmet itself. Juggernaut threw out his arm to get the villain killer away from him, as Deku seen this and did a backflip to escape Juggernaut's range. Deku simply rolled up his sleeves of his shirt and loosened the collar as he loosened his tie. You have definitely earned your reputation. If it was anyone else, you would have already been dead, down on the ground, or at least unconscious. Deku could see his opportunity, not even wounded. His opponent, not even wounded, meaning he has impressive stamina. He can tell whatever damage he actually managed on Juggernaut simply begins to heal itself. He figured Juggernaut has some sort of healing factor. It seems like everyone nowadays have a healing factor. That makes Juggernaut a very difficult opponent to deal with, but because of his unstoppable momentum, has to tread carefully. Deku could also tell by their fight he has superhuman strength, stamina, durability, and speed. And with his regeneration, it's nothing like Logan's, but it's still effective when it comes to battle. Deku can analyze that much from their brief encounter. It doesn't matter what timeline he's in, he will always have an analytic mind. That seemed to be a typical trait when it comes to every Izuku Midoriya. If his doppelganger is there anything to say about it? Only response Juggernaut gave Deku was a smirk and charged forward, swinging his humongous fist, trying to hit the villain killer Deku in the face, body, anything he could get. Deku, on the other hand, began dodging and weaving around the strong strikes as both villain and villain killer go into a power struggle, trying to push each other back as their hands lock with each other, as Juggernaut is being pushed back little by little bit. Then suddenly Juggernaut overpowered Deku for a brief second. As he was pushed back, Deku was pushed back, he was forced to use more of his strength when he noticed Juggernaut was winning their little power struggle. But he couldn't, Juggernaut seems to get him more, Juggernaut seems to be winning regardless. At least they're in a stalemate. To break the stalemate, Deku landed a uppercut upon Juggernaut, making him go airborne. Deku wasn't expecting to hit Juggernaut with such force. He was sent flying outside of the city. He clearly misjudged his strength. It's most likely for the best, as their fight has caught the attention of the local police and a couple low-tier heroes. So he made his escape by turning his body into pure data, or green data, and shot into a nearby street lamp. He'll have to try to kill Juggernaut another time. Deku spent the next couple weeks in his laboratory just keeping an eye what's been going on in the city by hacking into the city systems and using their cameras that's scattered all around the city to keep an eye on the situation when it comes to their villain population, keeping an eye on his next target that is famous enough for him to go after them. He's not just going to go after some unknown nobody villain that's just starting out. It's not worth his time. He's only going after people that has a reputation. That's not really a low tier villain. He needs to target bigger names. Until one day he got an alert of two villains fighting in the city. Muscular and an unknown villain that he couldn't get a description on from the information he got, so he decided to go in person to check if he knows Muscular. If he knows Muscular, he's a piece of work, much like in his original timeline. Muscular in this timeline is a well-known kid killer, so he has no qualms in ending his life, but the unknown villain needs to be seen. If he's going to engage in combat with Muscular, he needs to know what this other villain is capable of. You need to see if this unknown villain is going to be a danger in the future. Then he'll have to eliminate him or her. When Deku arrived on the scene, the area where the villains were last seen looks like a complete war zone. Deku could hear sounds of clashing further into the city. The further he walks, the louder the sounds of the clashing became, until he came across Muscular fighting a huge green monster known as Abomination, one of Hulk's most powerful villains. He's fought against on several occasions, and by the look of it, Muscular is on the losing side of the battle. Abomination is too much for Muscular to handle. As Muscular ran towards Abomination with his muscle fibers activated, as he threw out a humongous muscle fiber fist at Abomination, Abomination simply caught the fist and threw Muscular into a nearby building, as Muscular was thrown over and over into different buildings until Abomination became airborne and slammed both of his heels into Muscular's stomach, making the man cough up spit and a little bit of blood. Pathetic, you're weak. Shouldn't have attacked me if you couldn't finish the job. Time to die. Weakling. I don't think so. As Muscular used whatever strength he has and hit Abomination in the face, forcing Abomination to skid backwards, giving Muscular enough time to get on his feet and wipe the blood from his lips with his forearm. Before Deku could react or engage the two villains in battle, All Might announced himself in his usual manner as he announced All Might has arrived, or here, basically, and land between the two villains. I believe that's enough, boys. You already caused enough trouble, as it is, as he gestured to the destroyed buildings all around them. It looks like a war zone. The arrival of the number one hero definitely got the attention of Deku. The number one hero has finally graced the general population of his appearance. Now things are definitely getting more intriguing. As much as I want to join the fray, I'm going to have to hold back for now, and let's see how this plays out. If I see an opening that I can't resist, then I'll engage with extreme violence. But until then, I'll be a spectator for now. I hope you have a reason for approaching me, as Deku looked up into the sky to see a man wearing red and purple armor with a purple cape in the sky with his arms crossed against his chest. I come in peace. I only wish to talk to mutant. Very well, Magneto. You have nothing to fear from me. For now, at least. So you know who I am. What mutant doesn't? Touché. When Magneto hovered down right next to Deku, all three combatants rushed towards each other. So, what do I owe the honor? I didn't think I would be on your radar. That's where you're wrong, my boy. Your actions here in Japan did not go unnoticed. You might not realize it, but you're quite well known back in America. Your reputation precedes you. Even that far. Even S.H.I.E.L.D. has took notice to you. I approach you today to offer you a place among your kind. But as an invitation to join the Brotherhood. Deku has always understood and admired Magneto, motives. Most people would consider Magneto a villain, but not Deku. Deku does not, in all honesty, he prefers Magneto's way of thinking compared to the idealistic fool Charles Xavier in his X-Men. Now that is a most intriguing offer. Me, join the Brotherhood of Mutants. Deku was quiet for quite some time, until he gave Magneto his answer. I have no issue joining your little organization to help the mutant race. But I have obligations here that I need to deal with before I could even think about leaving Japan. You mean the League of Villains? You're half correct. But they need to be removed before I leave this country. There's a lot of unfinished business here. But once that's no longer the case, you will have my undivided attention. So we have an accord. That we do, as Magneto and the villain killer, Deku, went into a forearm handshake. Take this as the hand over a communicator. I'll be able to get in touch with you with that. Works both ways, my boy. Welcome to the Brotherhood. Your conditions are acceptable. I'll be in touch. As Magneto begins to float away, pleased with himself in recruiting a very powerful mutant, he knew Charles was going to approach him sooner or later, so he wanted to beat him to it, and he's glad that he did so. With someone with his abilities, would be a dangerous adversary to go against. He would rather have him as an ally than an enemy. Deku only gave the retreating Magneto a single glance, then returned his attention towards the fight between All Might, Muscular, and Abomination. All Might was starting to regret going in alone and battling these two villains. At the same time, one of them is doable, but both of them at the same time not so much. They even teamed up. Whatever misgiving they had is no longer there, at least until they're unleashed, until either he defeats them, or they kill him, or he dies. When they teamed up, they even push him back. The fact that he's almost out of time is icing on the cake. All Might tried to block a incoming strike from Abomination, only to get struck across the face by Muscular when he managed to flank All Might. Time to die, hero, as Abomination was about to throw the killing blow, until he got struck across the face as he was sent skidding into several buildings as All Might and Muscular turned their head to see the villain killer Deku. I hope this isn't a private event. It looks like you guys are having fun. So I thought I would join in. Why are you here, Deku? I'm hurt. You wound me, sir. Isn't it obvious? They're villains. And I am a villain killer, so far. I'm here to kill them. But I suppose I could restrain the urge to restrain myself from killing them. For now, at least. So you're the villain killer. I thought you would be a bigger, not some sort of punk that's barely old enough to drink. Muscle fiber, blonde hair, you must be muscular. You're lucky the number one hero is here, or you would have already been dead. Or you already been killed. I highly doubt your hero over here would appreciate me killing you. And that green monster over there. Green monster in question has already recovered and charging towards Deku, and he doesn't seem to be one bit happy, one bit. When Abomination swung his fist, he was expecting to feel and hear breaking bones, but instead, his fist went through Deku harmlessly through his body. You managed to churn a good portion of his body into pure computer data, as Abomination attack was completely negated, harmless, without even churning towards Abomination. He pointed his hand out towards Abomination and shot out a green beam of energy. that charged up in seconds as it was released, engulfing Abomination completely as he was sent flying back into several buildings until he hit a brick wall. As he went through that brick wall into a building that seems to be like an old bakery, as flour covered Abomination completely when he stopped moving. I'll leave the musclehead to you, number one hero. I'll deal with the green monster over there. You can try to take me down later. I don't believe time's on your side right now, number one hero. Oh my, got the hint as his eyes widened slightly. Does he know? How? I'll have to ask him later. As he turned his attention towards Muscular and threw out a Detroit smash at 20%, just to test the waters, to see where he needs to be before he can break through his muscle fibers. Now that he only has one opponent, he should be able to figure out a way to take him down. And using One for All, he doesn't really need to go 100% with a 100% smash. That probably wouldn't be needed. That would be clearly overkill. And with his current condition, that wouldn't be the ideal course of action in his state. He has about 20 minutes left before he reverts back to his Skull Might form. Oh, skinny form. I just call it Skull Might because it's easier that way. So time's not really on his side. So he needs to take care of the villain and do it fast. He knows for sure there's no way he'll be able to confront the villain killer if he survives this current fight. He's not a complete moron. He knows with his current time limit that's not feasible. Back with the Abomination, he just pulled off a large pile of rubble off of him, only to see the villain killer smirking, looking down on him. Instead of Abomination getting angry and lashing out, he calmed himself and got up to his feet and began cracking his neck as he walked towards Deku. I wasn't expecting to find the villain killer so soon. It's the only reason I came to the godforsaken country. Deku raised his eyebrow. Do tell, I'm surprised you even know of me, but apparently I'm more well known than I realize. The other villains from America might not see you as a threat, but you're dangerous. You're a threat that needs to be removed before it becomes a bigger problem. We can't have a villain killer running around, so I plan to end you before you become a problem. Nothing personal, kid, just survival. You couldn't help but snicker. That snicker turned into a full-blown laughter as he has his hand over the right side of his eye as he tilts his head backwards, laughing quite psychotically. As you can see his head turn towards Abomination, with his left eye visible as it's glowing bright green, as his right eye is covered by his hand. As you can see a serious face. I'd like to see you try. I am Abomination. Remember that name, Villain Killer Deku, because that's the last thing you will ever hear. Abomination immediately charged and swung his fist, only to see his attack was stopped dead on by Deku catching his fist with the palm of his hand. Deku capitalized on his shock and pulled Abomination closer and went into a spin kick, kicking Abomination in the face as he was sent flying, skidding across the street. Deku appeared right above him and slammed his fist into his chest, making a huge crater in the middle of the street. Deku noticed that attack didn't even faze him. He immediately hopped off of Abomination and basically jumped backwards to get some distance. Abomination got up like the attack was child's play. This time around, Abomination had a smirk on his face as he gestured with his hand for Deku to bring it. He couldn't help but smile. He found this situation humorous. This is the first time the roles has been reversed on him. Fighting a more superior opponent is something he doesn't come across every day. He couldn't help but get a thrill for battle. Instead of getting angry, he got pumped up for the incoming clash he's about to be part of as he rushed towards Abomination and swung his fist only for Abomination to slap it out of the way and land a stomach hook. Well, basically a hook. Stomach hook, basically. As Deku was lifted up from the air, from the stomach hook, as he fell back to the ground, as Abomination land another powerful right hook, making the villain killer shoot off like a rocket into a nearby building. In early explaining it, let me try this again. As Deku was lifted up and in the middle of the air before he could fall back to the ground, Abomination landed another powerful right hook, making the villain killer shoot off like a rocket into the nearby building. That's much better. Let's continue. After flying through the last building, Deku recovered by maneuvering his body into a slide as he had to jump to the side from an incoming Abomination as he slammed his fist where Deku once stood. Deku seen the attack, moved out of the way fast enough, then kicked Abomination in the face as Abomination was sent skidding backwards across the street. As they both recovered themselves, by now Deku has caught his breath, as he's not used to having a fight at this tense, at this level, so he is breathing a little bit heavy. Deku had no idea there was someone like this. He's never heard of a Abomination before. Either he just hasn't come across some information about him when he was investigating in his timeline, or simply his timeline doesn't have a Abomination in it. He noticed there's difference in this timeline compared to his original. But that's not important, as he immediately charged forward, ducking under a fist as Deku got up close and landed a devastating combination strike. He started the combination with a right hook, then proceeded with a left hook to the ribs, then the left hook across the, first hook to the ribs, the second hook across the face, then proceed with a spin kick in the side of the ribs, then ending the combination with a devastating uppercut. Before Abomination could go airborne, Deku jumped up and slammed his fist across Abomination's face, making him hit the ground hard, causing a small earthquake. Deku's not using his full strength in this battle, not just yet. You could clearly see the cyber circuits showing up on his skin, from his face all the way down to his chest and both of his arms. When he made the serum, he improved the physical strength aspect, turning himself into a hybrid Nomu. He built the serum in mind. He built the serum in that way, in mind, if he ever had to fight against the Incredible Hulk. He's definitely the most powerful, physical-wise, on the planet. And he could tell this Abomination is pretty close to the same level, scale, as the Incredible Hulk. Deku got some distance between himself and Abomination as he watched his opponent get up once again. Whatever damage is on his body is healing right in front of him. Yet again, another opponent that has a healing factor, and by the speed of the healing, it's impressive. He's already not liking healing factors in opponents. He's already fought the third person he's fought that had some sort of healing factor, and he's really getting tired of it. Wolverine, Juggernaut, now Abomination, all three of them had a version of some sort of regeneration. But he'll work around it. There's ways to beat a regeneration factor. You just got to apply enough pressure. Deku started to throw green and red energy ball and energy orbs at Abomination as they're all shot off out of the palm of his hand towards Abomination. Abomination wasn't expecting it, so he was engulfed in red and green energy orbs as all of them hit him all at the same time on all sides. The beams basically flew at him, then surround him, then flew downwards, all hitting him at the same time as Abomination is being bombarded by these energy attacks. Smoke is beginning to conceal his presence, or Abomination's location, concealing him in smoke. Deku had his right hand charging up a very powerful data beam. Once Abomination is visible once again, he'll blast him. And hopefully that will do some lasting damage. As the smoke finally cleared, revealing a slightly injured Abomination, once he sees his target once again visible, he released a charging of energy out of the palm of his hand as it shot towards Abomination. Abomination was expecting it, as he simply caught the beam of energy in his hand and pushed the beam upwards as it flies up in the sky. As you can see the smoke emanating from his hands. The fact that he was able to redirect the beam up in the sky with his bare hands was quite surprising. If he got hit by that, it probably would have done some serious damage to Abomination. But because Abomination is no fool, and this is not the first fight he's been in, he knows his battle instincts are dead on. He has fought against people that are able to shoot beams out of their hands before, so he knows what to expect. As they both charge each other at the same time, as they both land a powerful punch on each other, as a huge shockwave was created, as all the parked cars around them began flying into the buildings behind them. As the street below them begins to crack from the pressure of their shockwave. That's where we're going to stop it. I hope you guys have a good night and day. Judged by time zones. And I'll catch you in the next video.